Spencer, and I'm the director of Creek Show. And we started out with a vision of getting the public engaged in the creek somehow. I mean, the creek is a little bit dangerous, abandoned, but it's also beautiful. There's beautiful spaces. And what's to come is going to affect Austin tremendously. So the idea is put on a series of architecture, landscape architecture and art installations that'll really bring people down there to see the beauty of the creek, not the danger.
The initial mission was to create installations that were neither landscape nor architecture, but a little bit of both, that would illuminate not only the creek as it currently stands, but the potential for the redevelopment. We felt it was very important with our installation to not have a sort of small particulated installation like a corner where we had a little illuminated thing, but to take seriously what they asked us to do, to truly illuminate as much of the creek as we possibly could with the allowance that they had allotted towards it. And that's where we initially came up with this idea of tracing the line of the creek, something where from either above or within the creek you could see, the sort of nooks and corners that the creek traces that you don't typically see when you're up at the street level. We wanted it to be something that if you were on the bridges you'd see, if you were in the creek walking through it that you'd see. But more to the point, we wanted it to show multiple things, show the kind of elegant line that the creek runs, as well as something of the depth that changes across the span of the installation, which in this case was just a little over 6 feet. I'm Burton Baldridge.
I'm Michael Hardens.
And we were the sort of the two who spearheaded the effort for Baldridge Architects with the tracing the line installation at Water Creek.
The concept for Creek Show evolved out of an understanding that, for the most part, the infrastructure that was being put in place and the changes that would have on the creek would remain largely invisible to most of the people in the city. And so the idea was to make visible and reveal what impacts this particular infrastructure would have, in particular the diversion tunnel, on the creek's hydrology. And this began to take a particular form of graphics and notations that were then thought about in terms of their ephemeral qualities in relation to hydrology levels, and led me to considering how to reveal these graphics utilizing a material that would also have some ephemeral qualities. And what came about was a photoluminescent paint, which would, depending upon the amount of sunlight and energy absorbed over the day, begin to radiate that back as illumination and then bring attention to the statistical data that highlighted the impact of the creek's hydrology and the sort of diversion tunnel. So I'm Jason Sowell, and I'm an associate professor at the University of Texas at Austin.
Our concept for Waller Creek was high water mark. We were visually representing the 100-year floodplain, which was soon to be erased with the new Waller Creek diversion tunnel. We wanted to kind of show the relationship of the 1920 flood to the overall kind of scale of a pedestrian experience. We chose the 7th Street Tunnel to illustrate the high water mark with our undulating installation, which was comprised of EL wire, a steel armature, and that's it.
Our concept for the project was to create a hovering, ephemeral drawing of a bridge that would be hovering over the creek. It would be drawn in light, approximately 25 feet wide and 25 feet tall. And the idea is that it would be a kind of romantic bridge, sort of Venetian bridge shape, kind of iconic image of a bridge that would kind of hover in space and move and shimmer in the wind. My name's Murray Legg. I'm a principal with Legg Lewis Legg.
The concept behind our piece as part of Creek Show dealt with the idea of being able to reveal environmental systems that aren't readily noticeable in a creek corridor. And we were attracted to the 6th Street corridor environment in particular because that's one of the only stretches of the Waller Creek corridor that has a hard urban interface, literally where the vertical edges of the creek corridor have been human-made with a series of walls that have been constructed over the course of time. And as a result, one thing that we noticed was the changing wind dynamics, almost the tunnel effect of the wind funneling through that area. And so one of the things that we wanted to try to do in this installation was to bring the moment of wind or reveal the moment of wind even at the street level. So large tapestry was stretched across the creek surface at different tensile strengths and therefore captured the wind and allowed that wind to bounce the tapestry. In addition, we added lighting to it as well so that the light would be reflective off of the tapestry itself and being able to show how the wind actually moves light. Furthermore, viewing the creek is commonly done either by the adjacent bars and restaurants or by the street, and very few people actually see it from down below. And so we knew that the lighting would penetrate down into the creek basin, and we knew that there would be shadows created from the tapestry spanning across the creek. And so what that allowed for the users that were down in the creek bottom during the night of Creek Show, or the weekend of Creek Show, as well as anyone hiking in that general area, being able to appreciate the art from below looking up, not just above looking down. Steven Spears with Design Workshop.
Rachel Tepper with Design Workshop.
Creek Show is really a team effort. It took a lot of people doing a lot of work. We did a lot of work to make sure that the creek looked its best, even though right now it's not in great condition. There's not a lot of infrastructure for keeping it clean. We had a lot of different teams of people that were cleaning the creek, from volunteers, the downtown community court got involved, City of Austin Watershed, and even the designers. So there was actually an underpass under 8th Street where there was just a lot of rubble and a lot of buildup, and we thought we might have to block it off to pedestrians. It just was really impassable. There was broken glass. And then I came to look at the site on the day of, and Burton Baldridge's team had actually shoveled away all of that rubble, cleared the sidewalk, so that it would be accessible to everybody looking at all the installations. So I thought that was really great. They spent so much time in the cold water in the creek, and then they went above and beyond and did that clearing of that sidewalk. So I thought that really spoke to the spirit of Creek Show. Okay. I'd like to thank everyone that contributed to Creek Show. It wouldn't have been possible without the effort of so many. Everyone from the Waller Creek Board of Directors to our event sponsors and partnering venues, as well as all the volunteers we had, the Waller Creek Conservancy staff, City of Austin. The design teams were amazing. And then I'd like to give a special shout out to Melba Watley and Ingrid Spencer for their leadership.
So I can't tell what's really there.